behalf of Mendocino County, and happy to dive into your questions.
Okay. By far, the majority of questions concern the sale of the mill property. So we'll start here. The purchase by eminent domain of the Georgia Pacific mill property by Koch Industries to Mendocino Railway is an example of multiple overlapping interested parties. They're your constituents, the city of Fort Bragg, Mendocino County, the Pomo tribe, the California Coastal Commission, the Skunk Train CEO, as well as the Federal Surface Transportation Board, and probably more.
Yeah,
Please tell us which of these entities you've been in contact with and what actions you've taken or plan to take.
sure. Well, first of all, since I first came into this office, I have been working with the community and with the city of Fort Bragg on the vision for redeveloping the mill site. And I have always supported a community driven process that would lead to something really exciting and suitable and appropriate in that location. I was quite frankly caught off guard, as I think a lot of people were, including the city, by the way this all unfolded very quickly. And somehow the skunk train came into ownership of this in what looks like a friendly settlement that just came together in a way that many people did not foresee. Uh, I find it troubling. I think it has the potential to bypass and undermine many years of collaborative, transparent, inclusive planning and consensus building. So, I wish there was something I could do about that at this point, but I think the ownership piece of it appears to be something of a done deal. Going forward, though, I think the city is very interested in trying to make sure that whatever happens on that property is subject to its oversight and authority so that the community's voice can still help shape this. And I strongly support that. And that's why I declined to weigh in support of a skunk train request for a federal loan recently from the Department of Transportation. I will continue to work with the city and with the community on trying to make the most of this great opportunity. I mean, there's just nothing like this for that part of the coast, and we have to get it right.
Well, we worry about the Mendocino Railroad will claim public utility and federal railway exemption status to avoid cleaning up the former mill site. Is this a legal possibility?
I don't think it's a crazy notion. And I think clearly part of their plan in trying to build freight service on this line is to kind of broaden their authority to use eminent domain and to bypass state and local authorities as railroads are sometimes allowed to do under federal law. So I don't like that. I want to make sure that our state coastal commission, that the residents of Fort Bragg and other state and local authorities all apply. The requirement to go through, for example, the CEQA process so that the public can fully engage and you can make sure there's transparency and all voices are heard and you get the project right. That's one of the most important safeguards you have, especially if a property is going to be owned by an entity that might try to claim that type of preemption.
And along those same lines, the Mendocino Railway is developing a walk and bike path through the 70 acres of property along Pudding Creek. They're putting up a fence along this trail that blocks many wildlife corridors. And the construction of this path and fence has also impacted neighboring property owners. There is growing contention and concern. Do you have authority to deal with these issues?
I don't know that I have authority. I'm going to stay engaged. I'm going to follow these things. The authority piece, I think, is in question. I'm not sure what I can do beyond opposing attempts, by the skunk train to secure federal funds and other things to move further down this path. But we're going to stay engaged and look for ways I can help.
Okay, the California Coastal Commission has a California Toxic Tides project, which is looking at sources of onshore pollution that will contaminate marine ecosystems due to sea level rise. The mill pond and its dam are certainly on their watch list. What influence do you have with the Coastal Commission?
Well, the Coastal Commission is this interesting hybrid creation of federal law, the Coastal Zone Management Act, but also a bunch of state officials that sit on the Coastal Commission. And in terms of influence, authority, I can't tell the Coastal Commission what to do. Of course, they're an independent agency, but what I can do is try to make sure that their jurisdiction is not bypassed by something like this scheme to begin running freight rail service and to claim expanded federal preemption because of that. I see that for what it is, I think, which is a threat to the ability to have state and local oversight and authority on development in that area.
Right. Well, regarding the city of Fort Bragg's name change, I know you've been following that. You can give any information you want to about it, but also I have an interesting question. Okay. If the federal U.S. Postal Service could change the name of the Fort Bragg Post Office without the city changing its name?
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. It's an interesting question. The Postal Service, for better or worse, is a fairly autonomous agency. It's not one that I or my colleagues in Congress get much control over. There's an independent governing board that kind of calls the shots on that type of thing. But it wouldn't break my heart if they looked at renaming the post office in Fort Bragg. I have been very sympathetic with the people who at least wanted to reopen the question and reconsider, whether this beautiful, diverse, wonderful community should continue to immortalize the name of Braxton Bragg, someone who just seems to have no connection to who we are and what we stand for in this part of California. But I also understand that these things take time sometimes. So I have been following this pretty closely. I thought appointing the commission was a good idea to try to explore consensus. I'm not totally surprised, though, that they kind of came back with the inability to find consensus. But I do think as we go forward in time and as new generations begin to rethink these naming protocols and decisions, I just see it happening all over the place. Why would the younger generation and the next generation feel like they have to be permanently bound by a name that was chosen really on a lark and that has no connection to who we are, what we've been, what we stand for. So I'm going to continue to be very sympathetic to those that want to keep pushing those questions and reopening and reconsidering those issues.
Does the federal government have any influence over the forest practices and timber harvest plans in Jackson State Forest?
I think the answer is no. We have looked at that, and it appears to be pretty much entirely a question of state law. There obviously is a tribe that's interested in becoming a greater part of the stewardship there. And I would certainly support that. I support returning land to tribes where we can, including tribes in co-management scenarios wherever we can. So that could at some point lead to a federal nexus. But for the most part, this is up to the state of California. And I have been following Assemblymember Wood and Senator McGuire and their efforts to hopefully reimagine that demonstration forest and do some things differently going forward. I would be supportive of that, but this is mainly in their domain.
What is your current stance regarding the two basin solution in Potter Valley?
This is an issue that I care about a lot and have been working on for the past 3 or 4 years now. My bottom line answer to that question is I think the two basin solution, as the stakeholder group that I assembled has sort of outlined it, is the only durable way to resolve this for both Russian River Basin and Eel River Basin interests. And I think that has only become more clear as we've gone forward and are now probably looking at the likelihood of a PG&E abandonment and decommissioning of that project. So I'd like to think that the 3 or 4 years of a running head start that I helped to create by bringing these stakeholders together and doing studies and trying to imagine a win-win scenario where Scott Dam would be removed, but a run-of-the-river diversion would be continued into the Russian River Basin. I think that is going to that is going to emerge as in everyone's interest, and it is inevitably where this thing needs to land. So I'm going to continue supporting that.
Is there financing available to do that?
There is, the big ticket item in all of that is the cost of removing Scott Dam. Maybe over $100 million just for that. If this defaults into a decommissioning, PG&E will have to pay all of that, and so it makes the financing of the two basin solution actually easier for the local stakeholders who want to see this happen. What they would need to do is cut a deal to restore habitat, to create probably some new diversion infrastructure for the water supply side. I doubt that PG&E would be required to pay for that as part of decommissioning, but that's a manageable price tag relative to hundreds of millions of dollars that they might otherwise have been facing if they tried to do this outside of decommissioning. And I think that there are public funds available both for the water infrastructure and the restoration benefits, which are quite significant. So if we can make this happen, I think it definitely opens the door to public funding, and it wouldn't have to be borne entirely by County Mendocino or other local interests that would struggle to come up with those funds.
Uh-huh. So another topic, corporations are buying up real estate on the Mendocino coast and converting homes to short-term rentals. We have a severe housing shortage. Is there a federal solution to this problem?
The specific problem of rental by owner, you're not alone, obviously. This is happening all over the place. That's going to have to be resolved at the local level by county and local ordinances. And you see different communities coming up with different responses to that. So I would not presume to tell Mendocino County or coastal communities exactly how that ought to be regulated, but I applaud them for stepping in when they do. The piece that I can be part of is trying to make sure that Section 8 housing vouchers and funding are better supported at the federal level. Hopefully, we will begin to attract some of those property owners as Section 8 landlords so that we can begin to meet some affordable housing needs. And I hope that I can bring more federal dollars to the table to make it more attractive to be a Section 8 landlord. So that's one of the ways in which we'll try to be part of the solution.
Uh-huh. So a question just came in, so I'm going to read it to you. The American Rescue Plan Act provides funding to local communities to respond to the impacts of COVID. Can these funds be used to mitigate climate change if ARPA funds also meet the Act's objectives? For example, ARPA expenditures can be used to improve water infrastructure. Would a water project otherwise authorized by ARPA funds utilizing solar be proper under this act?
I think the answer is yes. No, these funds came with very few strings attached, and it basically was to help cash-strapped local governments um, keep the lights on and avoid mass layoffs and be able to continue to pursue whatever might be the highest priority in their community. So I have already begun to see, certain counties and local governments pursuing water-related infrastructure projects with those funds, and I think it would be up to County Mendocino or the local government, as the case may be. But I think there's pretty broad flexibility in how they spend it.
Like even providing EV stations and, as a tourist attraction for EV car owners.
I think it's up to them.
Okay. Okay. So because we're the League of Women Voters, we are quite interested in this new bill in the House, HR 3863, known as the Fair Representation Act. Could you tell us a little bit about it and what chances it has to get out of the House and approved in the Senate?
I have to apologize. The bill numbers are sometimes not how I file these bills in my brain, and so I'm not sure which specific bill you are referencing.
I think Jamie Raskin is one of the co-sponsors, and its name, as far as I know, is the Fair Representation Act. It involves.
Is it ranked choice voting?
Yes, it has that in it. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I'm supporting a whole bunch of bills on election integrity and voting rights and democracy protection. This is one that I'm going to continue looking at and thinking about. When it comes specifically to ranked choice voting, I'm not yet sold. I'm trying to keep an open mind. I know that there are some passionate advocates for ranked choice voting. And I know that a bunch of communities have tried it. In fact, we're seeing entire states, the state of Maine and the state of Alaska most recently has moved to ranked choice voting. And we're going to see how it plays out. In fact, it'll be fascinating in Alaska, where Senator Lisa Murkowski will be on the ballot, and probably opposed, definitely opposed by Donald Trump and maybe even her own Republican Party. But how ranked choice voting plays out in a really interesting election like that with lots of moving parts will be fascinating to me. I've seen it create some really bizarre outcomes, frankly, in San Francisco and Oakland and some other races. And I've seen it work in an orderly way in other places. So I'm just not yet sold on making ranked choice voting the model we want to see everywhere. I think there could be some unintended consequences. I've seen some people gaming campaigns and elections under a ranked choice model, and that concerns me. But long way of saying I'm not yet sold, but I'll try to keep an open mind.
Is there a bill that's currently in the process that will help? I mean, do you have a different one? That's your favorite
sure,
one?
sure. Yeah, on voting rights and election protection, there are several that I've co-sponsored and we've already passed out of the House. The John Lewis voter protection bill would restore the pre-clearance safeguard that used to exist under the Voting Rights Act before the Supreme Court and the Shelby decision invalidated it. They made I think, a very unfortunate finding that we no longer had the kind of systemic racism that would justify a pre-clearance requirement. So kind of stunning. And in the vacuum that created, you've seen all of these states begin to pass laws that take us backward on voting rights and voter suppression. So that's one bill. A more ambitious bill would be HR 1, the For the People Act, which not only would tackle voting rights, but also dark money in campaign financing. It would it would end political gerrymandering and move every state to independent redistricting. I think that would be wonderful. So those are bills that have already made it out of the House, are pending in the Senate, and are just stuck because of the filibuster. So if you want to see legislation like that move, even the narrowed down bill that Joe Manchin himself said he could get Republican support for, but turns out he can't. He could only get one or two Republicans. And so it's stuck because of the filibuster. If you want to see any of this happen, we have to change the filibuster. And of course, we learned last week that Manchin and Sinema won't support that. And so what that means is for this year's election, um, realistically, we are stuck with current law and current rules in some states that are going to be challenging to us. And we're going to have to litigate, we're going to have to organize, we're going to have to do a lot of extra work to make sure that free and fair elections happen in spite of some dirty tricks.
Right. So I'm looking at the chat thing, and there's a thing about having federal support available for broadband fiber optic in the city of Fort Bragg and our county. There's a bunch of areas of our county that have no broadband at all.
Yeah, huge priority. And I actually have some very good news on that. The bipartisan infrastructure law that President Biden signed in November includes a huge infusion of federal funding for exactly these kind of locally driven middle mile broadband build outs. We won't know exactly how much money will come through to California and how much of that will make its way out to community efforts like that. But Jez will be an important point of contact for you and others in Mendocino County. As soon as we have those formulas and numbers, we'll get them out, and I will go to bat for every local effort to try to get this infrastructure in place, because I think we've learned over the years that waiting for the big telecom companies to provide this service and make it affordable is just not ever going to get us anywhere. It's not something they want to do. It's not something they think they can make money on. And so, this federal piece combined with a significant amount of state funding that's now available, and Senator McGuire and Assemblymember Wood have been working hard on that, really opens the door to getting this done. I think for the first time, we have reason to believe that in the next few years we will finally deliver high-speed broadband to every underserved community, including the Mendocino coast.
So I know we only have time for like another question or so. Is there something that I haven't asked you that's a topic you were waiting to tell us about?
Well, you've asked great questions, and I'm not surprised. I know that the league is always just very engaged and doing great work. So I just want to applaud you for being involved. I know that this is volunteerism at its best. It's good citizenship, and we always appreciate the chance to be part of that conversation and try to lift our political dialogue and our democracy up a little bit at a tough time when a lot of people are trying to tear it apart. So thank you for that.
Okay. Well, thank you for showing up. We really appreciate it. I'm so glad that you took the time.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So short and sweet. Thank you all for all your questions and for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you can see on the chat the contact information for the field representative, and she's really good. She'll get all your messages to Representative Huffman. So anything more to add, Jess? Nope.
Nope, that's it. I'm available if you have any questions. Feel free to give me a call. And thank you all very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.